It feels like a dream. All A and
I
M
didn't watch
games
it
at this point.
because the
All A
shows
and
were
M
playing at the
games.
same time.
I had them both at the same time.
I checked the score a couple times. I'm firmly in box score mode at this juncture, and I didn't like what I saw. So not only did I not watch the game at all, I turned off box score mode. There's just
Turned
nothing
off.
there. All right, I just started recording. We're on. We're live right now.
We're live.
We're live. I don't believe you.
I don't believe you. All right, so just start it off. Give me some time.
Okay, so yeah, we're episode 6, and this is the end of the trilogy of us discussing shows and/or movies. We started with Frasier, the pilot. Then we moved on to Death Note, a complete 180. Except Frasier's basically an anime as well. But that's
Yeah,
another
I
episode.
want a Frasier pillow.
An anime Daphne.
No, I want a Niles Crane waifu.
If we searched anime Frasier right now,
That's
that
gonna
definitely exists,
That's
right?
gonna derail the pod.
I don't want to do it. I'm pretty sure it exists. This pod was never on the rails.
Oh god.
But yeah, so this
It
is the
exists.
third. We got Frasier, Death Note, and then we watched Donnie Darko, a movie that neither of us have ever seen, and we're going to discuss that. This is Halloween
In the
topical.
spirit of in the spirit of Halloween.
We're trying to get spooked. It is a pretty good Halloween movie in retrospect. But yeah, so we're just going to discuss that.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you probably should.
Yeah, it's
I
definitely
was on
worth
the-
watching, and you also
I was on
we're
the fence
not
about it.
we're not going to be restrictive on, like, we're going to spoil everything. So if you haven't seen the movie, either don't listen to this or don't care about spoilers because we're going to spoil it.
Yep. All right, so I guess we could start out with our initial.
General thoughts on it, yeah.
Yeah. So up until 45 minutes into the movie, I was extremely bored. And then I'm gonna preface this by saying that I did like the movie in the end, but at one point
It's a long movie.
Is it long? 2
Yeah,
hours?
it's like, I don't know, over 2 hours.
I didn't watch the director's cut. I watched the regular ass.
Yeah, the
presented.
regular ass one's like a
to the-
little
to the
under
people.
or right at 2 hours.
All right. Well, anyway, overall, I was really bored, but then it kind of piqued my interest, and then the way it ended. I mean, they obviously it's trippy, I guess you could say, on purpose, and they just left a lot of things up to interpretation. But overall, I liked it. It's got the Gary Jules Mad World Edgelord special that everyone listened to in high school when they realized that everything was bad.
Which is like perfect for this movie. Like
Yeah.
the theme and then literally the lyrics.
Yep. So it's overall, I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Wow, that's eerily similar to my score. I rated it on
I didn't even know we
IMDb.
were scoring. I just did that off the dome.
Yeah, I rated it on IMDb because I rate all movies I watch on IMDb because I'm weird. And I rated it a 9 out of 10 actually because I thought it was better than an 8. But it's not like a true 9, but you can't do 0.5s. So 8.5 is similar to what I would give it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. I'd heard of this movie for like a year. It came out in 2001 and I'd heard of it on like a bunch of movie lists where people are saying like this is a cult classic that'll like surprise you and has like a twist ending. So I kind of knew that it would involve some things that were like darker material and there would be a twist ending or something because I'd just heard that. But I didn't know anything about the plot really. I just thought from the beginning, like, I don't know how far the movie I was, but I was like, this is like a psychological type thriller. I didn't think it introduces the idea of time travel, and that becomes like one of the primary themes and like kind of becomes the ending that wraps everything up, and I didn't expect that. I thought it was just going to be like this person is hallucinating.
Right.
Like Donnie Darko is this
it's just spooky shit.
schizophrenic guy, and he's hallucinating this guy, and he's going to do a bunch of horrible stuff because the
one thing
voices
that they
are making him.
that they like kind of made a point to make is that he's like heavily medicated.
Yeah, yeah. They
I don't know how
it,
much that plays into anything.
what he's seeing and stuff. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
I think that's the whole using therapy to work through his issues. The whole Jim Cunningham storyline, where it's like this spiritual, pseudo-spiritual guide that's talking about fear and love, and is like generalizing the human psyche, and kind of like a whole pop psychology movement. And the movie takes place in 1988, and like just medicating to get through your issues. Like Darko's probably on antidepressants or something like that, and it doesn't really work, and it feels like shit. Yeah, he's probably
he's zanned out.
He's in January all the time.
Partakes in January.
But yeah, I think I saw that as like a criticism on the kind of the lifestyle, American lifestyle of that time, where people were looking for quick fixes and just medicating through their problems, which is still very relevant today, actually. And it kind of doesn't work.
Yep. One
of my favorite scenes in the movie actually was in the auditorium whenever Jim Cunningham, played by Patrick Swayze, he's like
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Swayze. He's like this guy who wears like collared shirts, slick back hair, and he's like the motivational spiritual teacher, like I was saying, creates these like terrible VHS videos where he's like fear, and it like zooms in on his head, and he's like love, and he like turns the other way, and like the gym teacher like makes the class like watch the videos because he's like in the town, he's going to be speaking later that week.
Right.
But like it's just super, he's like, you're either, everything you do is on a line between fear and love, and this spectrum governs all human activity and emotion. It's like you're either doing things out of fear or you're doing them out of love. Those are the two strongest emotions. And then immediately there's a scene where
Donnie's like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, there's a scene where like Donnie's being forced to go like up in class as part of like
some terrible exercise.
An exercise that day.
Why are they doing that in PE? Why are they watching fucking...
Yeah, that was a gym class. And they're like handing each student like a scenario where it's like a kid finds a wallet on the ground and they take the money out of it, but then they take it to the police to give the wallet back. And it's like, where does this fall on the spectrum between fear and love? And Donnie's like, this is stupid, I'm not going to answer this. Like, you can't generalize things between two.
Even then, if you were gonna generalize that, like that's a stupid ass spectrum to judge those actions on.
Exactly.
Anyway,
or it's like
I was just like I was thinking about it as it was happening. I'm just like, neither of those apply.
Those motivations aren't really relevant for that situation, and they're not relevant for a lot of situations. But it's like the guy's basically talked his way into saying everything can be ultimately summarized by fear or love. So there's that scene where he's like, this is bullshit. And then in the auditorium, when Jim is like having kids stand up and say, what they're afraid of or what they fear, Donnie stands up and goes on like a rant about how he's bullshit. And like, he just fucking starts yelling at him and calls him the Antichrist. And like, everybody's like cheering. That was one of my favorite scenes in the movie, actually. My
girl Gretchen was looking longingly at beautiful Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, young Jilly. This is actually like Gyllenhaal is one of my favorite actors, and I had never seen this movie.
It's a soft G.
Yeah, it's a soft G. Jill.
Soft G. Jill.
The Jill.
Gyllenhaal. Also, I didn't know that was his sister.
Yeah, Maggie Gyllenhaal is in the movie. Plays his sister.
She's attractive. Also, like to put I'm watching it. Everyone looks young as fuck. But then I looked it up and like they were like 20. Like Gyllenhaal's 21.
Really?
When he made this.
Yeah, I was trying to think of that. I saw in the trivia.
His sister is like 24 or 25.
Yeah, and they're playing like high schoolers. I saw in the trivia that they actually wanted Vince Vaughn to play Donnie Darko, but Vaughn was like well past his teens and 20s.
Vince Vaughn?
Probably late 20s. I know. Imagine Vince Vaughn as Donnie Darko.
Fast talk? Like, I own 25 speaker cities. It's just like, I make $25 million that the government knows about.
He's like, I see Frank. I see Frank. He's making me do this shit.
Yeah, no, but I was just surprised that I don't know, he looks like he's 14, and I was just like, when I was 21, I looked like I was like on the downturn. I looked terrible. So
Yeah, I didn't know he was 21. I figured he was like 18.
Genes.
I didn't look it up.
Some good genes. Yeah, everyone's relatively like kind of old. I don't know. It's just weird. And then what's his Seth Rogen's? This is his on-screen debut.
Yeah, he plays like
he was ever in.
He's got like a buzz cut. He's just like a bully at school.
He's got a terrible like chin beard.
Yeah,
like that looks bad. Yeah,
he sucks. His first line is "I like your boobs," and then he has like 2 more lines of dialogue in the entire movie.
Yeah, they're all terrible.
I did like the dad in this movie because
dad was awesome because he's just washed and like doesn't care.
He doesn't care. He like roots for his son. Like, but his first like scenes is like they're talking like politics at the dinner table where like the daughter Maggie Gyllenhaal, whatever her name is in the movie, is talking about how she was gonna vote for Dukakis, who was like the Democratic candidate in the 1988 presidential election against H.W. Bush. And obviously the dad's like conservative, where he's like, it's like, what do you think whenever your husband, half your husband's salary goes to the government because Dukakis won the presidency? And she's like, my husband. He's like, what about my salary? And then the mom is like proud of her daughter. She's like feminist.
Yeah, the parents in general were weird. I don't know. It was like a weird dynamic between the parents.
Yeah, but like that conservative thing, I was like, okay, the dad's an asshole. But then the rest of the movie, he's like really cool.
Yeah, I thought the same. But then like when he just starts like laughing at everything Donnie does.
Yeah, because they're getting called to principal. It's like, hey, your son told the teacher to like shove a book up her ass, and he starts like laughing out loud almost in the parent teacher. That's what I would do. Yeah, I'll do the exact same thing. He's like, she totally deserved it. He like says that later. And then the mom is just like struggling to like, you know, she like loves her son, but she doesn't know how to like deal with his mental issues. And he just like, she's trying to help him. She's hoping that therapy works and the medication. And there's like a part where like the therapist says, it's like, hey, do you know about Frank? Your son's like hallucinating like a bunny person that's like potentially like making him do stuff. Mm-hmm. And she like recommends, let's just give him more medication. And you can tell the mom's like, it's probably thinking that isn't going to work and that doesn't seem like the right thing to do, but she doesn't know what else to do. So she's just like, all right.
Yeah, I don't know. Just the whole like, just nobody understands what's going on. I don't know. The therapist was like, she didn't really do anything to me. Like she just like, it was more of just like, they use it to like, I think they needed like a good way to like have like this exposition of whatever was going on in his mind.
Yeah, it's a good way to have Donnie give exposition into his state of mind.
Yeah, but other than that, the therapist wasn't actually being helpful.
No,
she was saying like the stereotypical therapist BS, like how does that make you feel, or whatever.
Yeah, it was just a platform for Donnie's exposition into his state of mind. I agree with that.
Yeah. So,
and even Drew Barrymore. Yeah. Is in this movie as well. She's the English teacher, the edgy English teacher that's like
that tries to get kids involved.
Yeah, she like is passionate about everything, and there's like a part where, so they're reading The Destructors by Graham Greene, and it's like a short story in the English class about like a post World War II, like some kids go to like an old man's house when he's not there, and they just like vandalize it and like destroy the house and burn it down. And like the line where it's like, destruction is creation. The kids want to see what happens when they tear the world apart. And like you could argue like they're desensitized by the war. And I remember we read that actually in our own English class. So I like recognize the story immediately.
I think I like remember it now.
Yeah, because my group had we had to make Socratic questions on it. And I kind of remember like the point, like whole destruction is creation. And then after they read that, Donnie goes on one of his little insomnia trips where he goes with like an axe and like axes the water line in the school and like floods it.
Yeah,
and then the
that was
teachers all
another.
gather and they're like, the English teacher, Drew Barrymore's characters, was reading them this short story, The Destructors, and that seems like this caused this. And they're trying to like ban books. And Drew Barrymore is like, no, it's important that the kids read this type of stuff. And I don't know, I liked her character. She was the type of English teacher, edgy English teacher that I respect in these types of school movies. She was Hilary Swank.
Yeah. Also, I have a problem with the physicist guy, the physics kid teacher.
Yeah,
Why
Barrymore's
the fuck is he a doctor?
husband.
Why is
Yeah,
he?
you said he was a doctor. I don't remember.
Yeah,
How do we know he's a doctor?
He's a doctor.
It says that at some point. I just don't remember.
Yeah. He's a doctor of physics teaching at some trash high school in Virginia.
Yeah, the name of the town is Middlesex.
Yeah.
It's just like, what the hell does that
Middlesex,
mean?
Virginia.
Is one of the things I like didn't understand.
Yeah, so, and in general, I don't know, I had a problem with the whole, how they handled physics and everything. But then I had to
All
tell
his
myself,
conversations with him was just a plot device, similar to the therapist, to get exposition and foreshadow
on the
how the movie was
concept of
gonna end.
wormholes and time traveling.
Yeah, it was just foreshadowing the wormhole, and it specifically the part where he's like,
Can you go back in time or some
where
shit?
he's like, yeah, if everything is predetermined, if God controls time, then all time is predetermined, predecided. If we could see our path and we can know how our lives played out, then that would also give us the chance to betray our chosen destinies, is what he said. If there's a choice, then all predetermined fate doesn't matter, which like obviously foreshadows everything that ends up happening.
Right.
So that was just an expositional vehicle. This physics teacher, I guess doctor, he didn't really have that much of an effect either. He just kind of laid out the whole idea of choice to Donnie, which was cool.
Yeah, and then the weird, like, also the way he treats like the book that the old lady wrote, like it's some like, I don't know why they treated
He took it
that.
seriously. Yeah.
No, but he was like, he had it like hidden away and shit. Then he like gave it to Donnie, like it was some sort of a
Contraband.
yeah.
Yeah, and he says if we continue having this conversation at one point when they're talking about this, he's like, I'll lose my job. First of all, they're talking about like ridiculous pie in the sky time travel theories, and I guess they're talking about God, and that's probably why he was saying that. But then that's stupid, first of all, and then second, he's worried about losing his high school teacher job. He's a doctor. That worries him, which is a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I had a big problem with him being a doctor. Anyway, we
That
could,
ruined it for you.
Yeah, it ruined the whole movie for him.
I didn't like the part where Gretchen, the girl that Donnie meets, that he's like
The love interest.
the love interest, she had like problems with her parents where like her father like stabbed her, or stepfather stabbed her mother or something. She didn't like die, but like that happened or whatever, and I guess everybody knows about it, and that's like why she's like moved there and she has like a new name.
Yeah. And
the part where like those bullies in the class are just like in front of the class, like they're up doing a presentation on the IMG thing that we can talk about in a second, because I thought that was interesting. But we're doing that presentation and the bullies are just like doing like stab motions, being like clearly just making fun of the fact that her mom got stabbed in front of the entire class, and that doctor teacher like doesn't stop it. He just like at the very end, after they've gotten all of the like
he doesn't nip it at the butt immediately. He's just like get out.
Like no, you gotta fucking go insane on those kids. That's horrible.
I don't know. Are we washed that we're sensitive about this?
That, I mean, I just saw that as like, if I was a teacher, I put myself in that situation as a teacher, and I'd be like,
I don't know.
You have to shut that down. That's horrible.
Think about it now.
Let them go on.
I was thinking about like myself in high school. I don't even know if that's like a line I wouldn't cross. Because I was
No. You definitely would not do that. If we were going to school with a kid.
If it was real, probably not. But I would say some wild shit like that if it was like, fake. I don't know.
No, there's no way. That's something that's like is just off limits. It's not. There's nothing funny about it. It's just
Yeah.
there's this like in every Stephen King novel and a lot of books, and I kind of don't like it. But just how sadistic bullies they make the bullies in school be. You know, I guess some of it's realistic. Kids are literally like can be psychopaths at that age and are just say the worst shit. And like kids are super
Yeah.
cool. I understand that, but like this is another example of like in movies and books where they just make the bullies just the worst absolute people. So you just
And
hate
he like
them and
just
feel
has like
more
a
empathy
fucking like
towards their
knife
targets.
in the bathroom when he like corners Donnie when they
Yeah, he's literally gonna like slit his throat.
yeah, I was like, what the fuck? But then later in like the final scenes he just has like a fucking like butcher I mean like a just a big ass knife.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know. Anyway, the bully.
I guess
bullies
kids
terrible.
are murderous in high school, but I just didn't experience it, and it's a little bit extreme. It seems like a plot device to just make things higher
The
stakes
only
for
thing I
them.
was murderous to in high school was my driver's license. That's it.
Wait, you were murderous on like the roads
No, to my driver's license.
to your
Because
license itself.
Yes. To its ability to stay not
That doesn't
suspended.
make sense.
To stay not suspended. But yeah. The I really liked like the overall like aesthetic. I don't know, I guess they really did make it seem like it was, 80 whatever, 88.
The soundtrack's really good. That's what I was going to mention. It was like synth 80s pop and stuff.
Yeah. They could have like, I don't know. This movie would have been way better with like good special effects, but I also understand that it's like, it was like
Yeah,
a low
especially- I mean,
budget. It was like
this
a
movie
low
wasn't
budget
made on a
independent
budget.
film. Yeah, I think it was
So
like
the special effects are
4.5 mil or some shit like that. So it wasn't like a big budget movie or whatever. And it was like pretty much like a box office bust.
Yeah, it became a cult classic later on.
Right.
The voice, so like the visual effects are bad. There's like the part where like the blobs are coming out of people and they're like directing
Yeah.
on a path.
Yeah.
And I saw in the IMDb trivia that the director said he came up with that because he was watching like Monday Night Football and Madden would like draw the lines on replays when the screen was frozen to where players were going to like run, like routes and stuff.
Yeah.
And he said he was really high when he was watching it. And he said what if like the man upstairs was doing that with like people's lives? So that's how he came up with the blobs coming out of people and like leading them to where their fate was. And then obviously Donnie sees that, and like obviously normal humans aren't supposed to see it, but then that gave him the whole, also foreshadows the choice thing. Where like if you can see where you're going to go, you can change it.
Right.
But yeah, like I was going to say, this visual effects look bad, but the voice of Frank, the guy in the bunny mask, sounds good. It's like really
He delivered the
amplified and sounds high pitched. The voice is good.
He delivered the best line in the movie. It's just like, what are you doing in that human suit or whatever?
Yep, that is the best line. That was one of the things I had written down, where it's like,
I had to like rewind it.
was like, why are you wearing the bunny suit? And he's like laughing because every time Donnie starts seeing Frank, you can see his eyes like glaze over. It's as if he's sleepwalking. It's one of the things I noticed.
Yeah.
And he's like smiling and like his eyes. And then
Yeah, he has like a maniacal look in his face.
Yeah, another thing the IMDb trivia is like Gyllenhaal, being the method actor he is, even at 21, I guess. He said to increase his like psychotic creepiness, he blinked as little as possible in the movie, which
How do
I
you
would have to
even
go back
control
and
that?
like pay attention to that. But that's part of the reason his eyes look like that. But yeah, his eyes glaze over and he's like smiling and he's like, "Why are you wearing the bunny suit?" And then Frank is like, "Why are you wearing the human suit or the man suit?" I don't remember which one he says, but that was good.
Yeah. That was yeah. He acted very well. Mr. Gilly.
Yeah,
I love it.
and another good quote was whenever he's like in the therapist sessions, he's talking about God. The therapist asks him if he believes in God.
Mm-hmm.
And he says like the search for God is absurd. And she's like, "Do you really believe that? Do you believe there is no God?" And he's like, "I don't know, and there's no point in looking. If everyone dies alone, then
Yeah.
why does it matter? Why does anything matter?"
That's how all my like mental therapist session go. Just like that. It's that every time. So
Yeah, where it's just this like nihilism, and like he's like a high school student, But I mean,
Yeah.
to a certain extent, I can relate to that. That's something that
You that's when you start getting a grasp of everything, I guess,
you
to
have
some
those
extent.
existential thoughts about your purpose and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So that's why I was that's actually like when the movie when I was like right when I was about to give up on it, that's when I was just like, all right, maybe this will go somewhere.
And exactly, and for the time, like the 1988s, and this plays into the whole Jim Cunningham thing being like the spiritual guide, and kind of like coming up with like this pseudo advice for, having the polar extremes of fear and love, and lumping everything into those two categories. And then everybody just believes in God by default, and it's like in the 80s, like everyone has this like traditional family-oriented Christian view of like life and society, and people like Donnie and Gretchen, I mean, they don't see it necessarily as bullshit, but like to a certain extent, they can't relate to it, and they're like off on their own island. Like Donnie's like depressed; he's trying to like figure the things out in his life. He's like being medicated. So yeah, I appreciated that whole like commentary on American life in general, and like
Yeah, because it did kind of capture like the kind of like suburbia BS quite
where it's
well.
just you
Because
can
they have like the highly active PTA meetings, and they're just
all the
discussing
parents
like
are vocal.
minutiae, and then it's just like come on, people, like yeah,
He kind of sees it for like the hypocrisy. Like he calls Cunningham out and like says, and like obviously you end up finding out that Cunningham is like he has like a child porn dungeon, and like he's the worst person ever.
Yeah,
and then there's still like
seeing like Swayze crying.
Yeah, so he's getting arrested at the end, and like they found all this horrible because Donnie goes and burns down his house. It's like one of the final things Frank makes him do, and like and that gym teacher that like loves his videos and is like number one in the PTA being vocal for like banning books and like conservative bullshit. She like doesn't even she thinks Cunningham's been framed with the kiddie like porn, and she doesn't even believe it. And Donnie Darko's mom says like, wasn't there something with like kiddie porn? She's like, don't say the words. She's like in denial about it, and she just doesn't believe it because it would force her to like look in the mirror and like reevaluate her entire life, because she probably lives by that love fear VHS tape bullshit.
Yeah, so just the hypocrisy of the spiritual leader, like it was all kind of BS. Like he had his own demons that he was dealing with while pretending to help others.
Right.
Yeah. So that was a good turn. Also, I liked that whole turn of events because I didn't really know where that was going. Because if like the whole point of Swayze's character was just for Donnie to like blow up at him and that like
I think that was part of it.
Oh, I mean,
he was like an avatar.
Right, but if that was the only purpose, then I would have been dumb. I like that they like completely like like decimated him, I guess.
Yeah, I think he was. I didn't even think they needed to do that. That like twist where like he has this dark secret was like the icing on the cake. But I didn't think that needed to be there. Like you could already see his hypocrisy and like he's just doing it for the money. But yeah, I saw like Cunningham. He's kind of like an avatar for just this conservative and religious values in America, and how he really only cares about money. But he's like telling people about too many young people today are paralyzed by fear or whatever. He has that whole like speech. Yeah. He's like, they're surrendering themselves to destruction of drugs, alcohol, and premarital sex. And those are the problems with like, whereas it's the whole idea of they're just generalizing the angst and the problems of the youth at that time into those things, when in reality it's a lot more nuanced and people are just like depressed for other reasons.
And the problems are still the same, probably, through time.
Yeah, this is like 1988, and they're trying to make it like, oh, this is like Reagan era lifestyle in America, and like all of the things in this movie are still relevant today, I think. And that's part of the reason like this criticism on America and lifestyle, and the whole like depression, like him potentially being schizophrenic, and like the kind of the bigger issues this movie like does deal with. I would have thought that it would be successful. Like I'm surprised kind of that it flopped. Like it's not just like a weird horror movie with like a twist at the end. There's also a lot of like social commentary in the plot. So I figured it might have done better than it did. That's why I was
Yeah,
surprised by the
and
movie. It was a lot better than I
it
thought
was
it would
like
be.
an independent movie. Like it was shown at Sundance first and all that.
Yeah, I guess it might have just been marketing. Not enough people knew about it.
Actually, yeah, I think I read this in like the either IMDb or because it came out in 2001, and then I think they like when they were gonna it came out like October-ish or so.
Right.
Anyway, they had to like dial back the marketing because of September 11th because of the plane stuff that happens in the movie.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I remember reading that.
Yeah, so just could have been like bad timing.
Yeah, anyway, it's still good, and now it's got an edgelord following. In the end,
Yeah.
if you make something good, it'll get appreciated at some point.
Exactly. Yeah. I saw also in my notes here. There is a part where the therapist says, he's created Frank as a coping mechanism for perceived threats in the world around him, and he's hallucinating this as like this coping mechanism, and she said it's a common occurrence among paranoid schizophrenics.
Mm-hmm.
Then she said the diagnosis is more hypnotherapy and increased medication. So yeah, that was my initial thing. Like in the very beginning of the movie, my prediction, I was like, oh, he's a schizophrenic. Like he's not just depressed; he has like a much deeper issue.
Yeah.
Which, by the end of the movie, I don't know if that's true or not. With like the science fiction stuff that happens.
Yeah, which I highly dislike and like at the same time. Because I don't know, I'm not a big fan of like up to interpretation endings.
If they're done right, it's good.
Right, but this was it wasn't an Inception,
Yeah.
it wasn't that, but
I
yeah.
actually think it's open interpretation and this type of thing where if you ask the director what he meant, he would say like, oh, it's up to you. But I
Yeah,
think
that's
you can
exactly
draw
what
a pretty
happened.
clear like ending to what happened. Like in my interpretation and like some clues here and there, it seemed pretty obvious to me how the ending plays out and what it really means. So like the part where he's the very beginning, he says like you have 28 days until the end of the world. Frank tells him that on the golf course, and like you kind of see that as like, okay, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that clearly meant like that's the 28 days till the end of like your world, like you're gonna die.
Right, your existence.
Your existence is your world's over. So like basically, like the ending where he goes up, like everything plays out. He sees Frank. He ends up killing Frank, shoots him through the eye. So like Frank's ghost came back and is like directing him through all of this, and he sees the portal and he goes back through it and he wakes up in his bed at the very beginning. Obviously, like skipping over a lot of the nuance, but if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And he makes the choice, like all those conversations with the physics teacher were foreshadowing the fact that if he could see his path, he could make a choice to change it. So he basically wakes up in his bed at the very beginning of the movie, that time, 28 days before Gretchen's death and everything playing out, him like murdering someone. And he sees everything that it's going to play out, presumably in a dream. So he like wakes up and he's like laughing. And then he doesn't get out of his bed and go to the golf course. Like Frank isn't leading him out there. Presumably he knows what's about to happen in his room, and he makes the choice to stay there to like die. The engine falls through and like crushes him. And so that changes like that tangent universe that got created through this dream that he just witnessed. He's just cut off because he's taken himself out of the equation, and he's basically saving Gretchen. Even though they haven't even met yet, he's seen the future.
See, but I guess like the problem with that is that it's 28 days from the jet engine thing.
Yeah, well, the jet engine thing might be like on a loop where it's going to happen no matter what. And that plane that drops the engine is going to happen no matter what. And now maybe his mom and his sister won't be on it because
But that was in the future.
Yeah, and I guess there's a portal between that point in the future.
Right, that's the wormhole.
Yeah,
So,
the wormhole's there regardless, but
So it's in an alternate. So the way I understand it, in an alternate timeline, all that crap happens, and then in another one, which is the one they show at the very end, whatever opened the wormhole
yeah.
to go to another universe and another time, 28 days before. Like, so none of that happens. That's just how I see it. Like, they both happened. Both things happened. And one, he, like what we saw in the movie plays out. And in the other one, just none of those characters' paths cross. Like, Gretchen is still doing her thing.
I think they both have, but the same Donnie Darko is in both of them. I don't think there's two of him. He's the same in both. He got to experience both, and he made a choice between one over the other. He's like, I'd rather be dead and Gretchen be alive, and me not kill that person, and me not like burn Patrick Swayze's house down, and me like all those things that end up happening. He's like, it's basically Gretchen. He's saving Gretchen. He's staking his life to save Gretchen's. Is how I saw it. He had a choice between those two that he could have lived in either one.
Yeah.
Because if he had woke up laughing and he knows everything that's going to happen, he could have just left his room, gone to the golf course, or gone anywhere else, and then just let things play out like normal, and the same things would have happened. Or that's what he was betting on. So he's like, if I take myself out of the equation, then things will play out differently. That was one part of it, and then the part where it shows at the same time where the crashes through and he's like crushed by the jet engine, it shows everybody else involved in the storyline, like Drew Barrymore, his parents, Patrick Swayze, and then Frank, the other high school kid that wears the bunny mask. They all like waking up, and it's like playing Mad World, and it has like the lyrics where it's like the dreams of where I'm dying are the best I've ever had, and it shows like Frank. So like it's each person's like waking up. Like Drew Barrymore wakes up, Patrick Swayze wakes up, and he's like crying, and he's like ashamed of himself because I guess he realizes that people are gonna find out. So this is my theory, is that everybody's having the same dream and like vision of what happens in this alternate timeline that Donnie had also. So they're seeing how their lives are gonna play out in this alternate timeline. So Swayze sees, Drew Barrymore sees herself like losing her job, I guess. Swayze sees himself being caught for his dark secret. Then Frank is like touching his eye.
Because he got shot in the eye.
Because he's like, that's where I literally die in this alternate timeline. And then at the very end, whenever they're like taking Donnie's body out and they're like loading it up, you can see Donnie's mom like staring at Gretchen as she like rides her bike across the street. And she's just like staring at her like she knows her. But obviously she's never met Gretchen at that point. Gretchen asks like a kid standing there like what happened, and he like explains that someone died. And like Gretchen and Donnie never meet in this scenario, but her and Donnie's mom make extended eye contact for a while. So I was thinking Donnie's mom knows that Donnie sacrificed himself to save this girl, because in that alternate timeline they like become close.
I don't think
That's my theory, is that everybody that's involved with Donnie has the shared vision of that alternate timeline. They have some inkling of what happens, and that's like why he's touching his eye at the end, Swayze's crying, and the mom knows Gretchen, even though those things that should theoretically be impossible. Everybody has memories of the future. That was like my theory on the ending.
Yeah, I don't think that they all experience it. I just think that they just feel like an odd connection.
Yeah, that's also true. There's no way to know one way or the other. That's just my interpretation.
Yeah, that's why I just viewed it as like they all have like this odd, weird connection that they all feel, just to them all seeing all this crap that happened.
I guess part of it is
everyone he came in contact with.
Exactly. Part of it, I guess, is me wanting. It's like me being optimistic and wanting that to be true, so everybody can better understand like this sacrifice Donnie made. Where it's like he didn't just like die like some random pointless death. Like he actually like saved lives,
Yeah.
That's what I'd want to believe. And like there's that part in the movie which also kind of supports this theory where Gretchen, when she first meets Donnie, and he says, "Yeah, my name's Donnie Darko," and she's like, "That's like a superhero name," because like Peter Parker, Bruce Banner. Like, there's a ton of comic book characters that have alliterative names, and that's like done on purpose just to make it more memorable.
Yeah,
like Donnie Darko is a hero in this scenario.
He's Also, they like I don't know. I guess it's kind of parodying that as well. That the name's kind of ridiculous sounding,
Yeah, it is
and
ridiculous.
he's like a. I mean, I mean, he is technically, if you go with your interpretation, like a superhero.
Yeah, because how is he able to,
I mean,
does
just
he
just
create
from
the
like
portal?
a chosen one perspective.
Yeah.
it's like a dark chosen one. Like
Like, is he creating the portal with his power? Or is that just something that's just happening and he's taking advantage
I,
of it?
I think it's that.
He's just right place, right time.
Yeah. So if this is all, I don't know. I'm just having trouble. Right. I'm trying to make things make sense in my mind, which is like bad. But I guess it's my curse.
It's always
Because
ridiculous with time
I'm
travel.
trying to. Yeah, time travel is just dumb. Don't. If any movie directors and writers listening to this, first of all, why? Second of all, just don't do it.
Interstellar's good, though.
Interstellar was based on real time travel up until like the very end when it goes into like when it
Time
goes
travel's
into
inherently interesting. Even when it's done poorly, it's still, like, intriguing. People are always going to be drawn to the idea of it.
right. Yeah, I agree. I just don't. Interstellar did it right up until like the very end where he goes into like galaxy brain mode when he's like knocking over like the bookcases and shit.
It's us. We are the fifth dimensional beings. Merv! Yeah, ending's God tier. I'm completely fine with it. It's all theoretical at that point. It's none of it's.
Right. Yeah.
They're not trying to be
Neil
realistic.
deGrasse Tyson's tweeted about it. Which is like, well, actually, this is all bullshit. Matthew McConaughey's a terrible actor. And yeah, I don't know, but overall, I thought it was good. I had to like. At first, I was kind of mad at it for just ending like that. Like, I'm not mad that he died. I was just kind of just like, why'd they just go all trippy? But like after that, it's just kind of like I thought about it at work. I talked to a coworker about it, and I was just like, you know what? It was good. I'm gonna enjoy it for what it is,
Yeah. I don't know if
which
I'd
was
rewatch it, but it's definitely.
yeah.
I
I
was
barely
entertained by
watch
it.
movies anyway.
Yeah, neither do I. There's very few
Yeah.
movies that I actually think are rewatchable.
Right.
And if they are rewatchable, like, you can watch them infinitely. But then there's some movies where, like, the main draw is not knowing what happens. So if that's gone, then that's gone.
Yeah.
There was one quote here that I had in my notes where it's kind of ridiculous. This is with the This is like the most intriguing therapist scene. It's the last one. Whenever he's like he's like experiencing Frank, and like he sees like the portal while he's in the therapist room.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this part where like the teacher says, so he's saying, I have to obey him. He saved my life. I have to obey him or I'll be left all alone. And he says, I'll have the power to build a time machine. And the therapist responds with, how is time travel possible? Which is like a weird response to me.
Yeah.
And then he says, time's up, Frank said. Because like Frank is like controlling him and doesn't want him to reveal more. And he's saying like the world is going to end. He like mentions that. And then the therapist has this like quote where she says, it's like just ridiculous to me. Like as I like wrote this out, I was like, why is she saying this? This seems like out of character for the therapist to be saying this. But she says, if the sky were to suddenly open up, there would be no law, there would be no rule. It would only be you and your memories and the choices you made and the people you've touched. If this world were to end, there would only be you and him, and there would be no one else. And like Donnie's like breaking down, like she's like trying to like calm him with these words.
Yeah, that's not like a therapist thing.
But
to
like
say.
this is just confounding to me. Like my only theory on this, I guess, is she's like super religious, and this is like biblical, like metaphorical language that she just has in her holster. I don't know. This dialogue is insane.
Like I said, the therapist doesn't do anything. I remember thinking that as well. I was just, this isn't like a therapist thing to say.
Like, what is she saying?
I was
Yeah,
like,
is she.
if anything,
I'm assuming
this
she's like.
supports his like nihilism.
She's saying
I don't know.
if the world were to end, it would only be you and him, and by him she means God. And I'm guessing Donnie is interpreting that as like Frank.
Yeah,
or, like,
I
death.
thought Frank.
She I don't know if she means Frank. If she means Frank, then she's just batshit crazy. She has to mean God as like her character. She's saying like, because she's asking about God in other therapy sessions. She's clearly like has this religious view, so she's saying like it's okay if the world ends. Like it's okay if you're going insane and you feel like this darkness because God will be with you. But I think Donnie hears that as death or Frank. Sure, like I guess one and the same in this instance. Like she's trying to comfort him with these words, and I don't think it's working at all because of the way Donnie's interpreting it. But yeah, I thought that quote was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. She's just a terrible therapist. That was my takeaway. Like none of what she was saying was like particularly helpful, and like the hypnotherapy thing, I don't know if that actually works. So
I don't think there's any movie. Frasier is probably the best therapist. I'm just trying to think of any movie or show where like the therapist is actually good and helpful. Almost always it's just a platform for exposition from the main character, and the therapist doesn't actually do anything. Like all the jokes about like it's like, oh, I'm paying you like X amount of dollars per hour to like ask me questions and like say like how does that make you feel, and like it's just a platform for somebody to like vent, but like the therapist never actually produces any real solution. I mean, I've never been to therapy. I'm guessing that's how it works in real life as well. But like in movies and like film and shows, like the therapists are almost always shit. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody can give me an example of one where the therapist actually does a damn thing.
Yeah, I'd like to see it as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That might just be the therapist trope. In just
that's the trope, yeah.
In writing, it's just that it's used for character exposition rather than because I mean, I guess in most movies where they're going through a therapist, like if the therapist was actually helping them, they probably wouldn't get into whatever predicament the movie's about anyway. So
that's part of it, and I guess part of the therapist role also is like they're supposed to listen and give as little like non-invasive generalized advice as possible, because those people are like opening up to them and being vulnerable. So if they give like super specific advice or actionable things to do, it might be misinterpreted, or like the person might get like mad or make the wrong decision, or misinterpret what they're saying. I don't know. I don't know like what the therapist creed is, but it seems like to me they're as non-impact as possible. They're just there to listen and then provide very, very slight generalized advice in response to someone venting.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
If you're a therapist, come on the pod, discuss. And
Please.
also help me. I need help.
Yes, we'll each do sessions with you on the pod.
Yeah. We'll podcast our therapy sessions.
That'd be prime time.
That'd be terrible. I would never.
It would be terrible, but people would listen.
No, nobody listens.
I'm fairly certain of that.
But yeah, we'll see. Therapists, reach out to us.
Yeah, and then there's this quote that like brought some warmth to my heart, where it's near the end of the movie when Gyllenhaal's like breaking down more. Mm-hmm. He's like with his mom on his bed, and his mom's like hugging him. He's like, how does it feel to have a wacko for a son? Yeah. And the mom's like nearly crying at that point. She's like, it feels wonderful. And I was like, that's a good parent. She's like embracing the struggle of trying to raise him.
Yeah, the mom was good. The parents are both good.
Yeah, I always like that when the parents are good in like these high school movies or like these dramas where it's a kid and the parents can suck sometimes.
Yeah, like
the best parents in any movie. The first thing that comes to mind is Easy A.
I've never seen that.
You seen that?
Nope.
Those are the best parents in any movie I've ever seen. One of them's Tucci. Tucci's the dad. Stanley Tucci.
Who the fuck's that?
That's Trill Ballins. He's a Tucci fan account that's like in his bio. Stanley Tucci's the person he's talking about as an actor.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Look up Stanley Tucci. You know who it is.
I don't watch movies, by the way.
You should watch Easy.
To the listeners. Tucci?
But this is another movie.
Terrible name.
The parents in Donnie Darko go into the Parent Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's movies. Tucci. I guess I've seen them and stuff. I don't know.
He's in Hunger
I don't.
Games. He's in Transformers. He's in
Haven't
a ton
seen
of
that.
movies.
I haven't seen a trainee since like the second one.
I think he's like a villain in one of them.
The most important character in Transformers is the dude whose name escapes me right now. He plays like the
Tyrese.
government man. No, not Tyrese. Tyrese is in Transformers.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like always screaming about how ridiculous the Transformers are. He's like, what the hell is that?
What's his? He's a knight of. What's his fucking name?
Oh, the feet guy from Mr.
Yeah, the
Deeds.
feet guy. Yeah, Mr. Deeds. That guy.
That guy's awesome.
Whatever his name
That's
is.
Totoro. John Totoro.
Yeah, Totoro. I was gonna say Totoro, but I was like, I know that's the big anime guy.
My Neighbor Totoro. That should be like an SNL skit. My Neighbor Totoro. And it's like an anime John Turturro.
But yeah. Anyway, he's good.
This movie with Denzel and Colin Farrell looks fire. Denzel's got an afro. Roman J. Israel. I'm gonna watch that.
All right. So any closing thoughts on Donnie?
I'm looking through my notes, see if I missed anything that I wanted to get to. Oh yeah, the IMG idea, like the presentation they're doing, where they're saying they should put these like IMG like glasses on babies when they're a kid to transmit images of beauty to infants while they sleep
Oh, that
to
was
help
terrible.
generate memories in babies at the earliest stages. Like, what did you think the point of that was? I was like,
I
that's
don't
an
know.
interesting part.
I don't. That was a part where I was just like, why is this happening at all? And why is the physics teacher giving like these weak? I don't know. I think like the dude who wrote this, just he had like these really cool like ideas.
And he tried to throw them all in the
And
movie.
he tried to throw them all in there at once. So like, oh, babies need darkness. It's part of their development, or some
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. The teacher responds like, maybe darkness is a part of natural development of
Yeah,
infants.
I was just like, what is
Did you
this
think
like
about that?
this edgelord bullshit?
Well, I thought this was interesting. My take on this, I guess, maybe the reason that specifically this is Donnie and Gretchen working on this together, and they're kind of like kindred souls, kindred spirits. And I think this project idea they come up with like babies trying to generate good memories at the earliest age. I think it's like a representation of like the idea that they share, that, and they kind of discuss this, where maybe if they had good memories of their childhood, it would offset all the bad memories they have in their adolescence and going into adulthood. Where like they're saying like, you know, as babies, maybe if we had these just calm, beautiful images of like landscapes, then maybe it would offset the bad memory, which is, you know, kind of idealistic and at worst like just completely untrue and stupid to think that would actually do anything. But that's kind of where I think they're coming from. You know, they're young kids that they're naive to what technology can actually do and how our brains work. So they think maybe this could work. That's kind of the idea I had, where they're like, maybe they want babies to have good memories to prepare them for the terrible ones that are going to come in adolescence and adulthood.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'll just throw that under the category of the dude just wanting to get something he wrote that was cool in there.
I do think it's cool that there are so many big ideas.
Yeah,
like,
there's a lot of stuff
in this movie.
And like I don't know if the guy has written anything else since. I don't know. I feel like
I'm
he's
not
very
sure.
one-hit wonder-ish.
I'm looking at his
And,
IMDb now. Richard Kelly is the writer-director.
Yeah.
He also made The Box, the Cameron Diaz movie in 2009. Domino. Yeah, it looks like this is kind of his one-hit wonder. He's written for 7 movies. But yeah, kind of I do like the fact that there's like big. I did have like kind of this, like if I was gonna write like an essay on Donnie Darko, I had this like there's like opposing viewpoints, in the movie about like what makes up the good life, I guess, and like the proper responses to like adversity life gives us. And one of them is about like what makes up good art and like proper education. So that's like the part where it's like, what is the value of the destructor's story, and how like the PTA wants to ban it versus it has value even if it deals with things that the kids might act on, like vandalism and like how to communicate with kids. Where Drew
It's
Barrymore has
well,
that.
like the kids were trash anyway.
Yeah, well, like she's like,
The
there's like
bullies
that
were
part where
garbage.
Barrymore's getting fired. The principal's like, "You failed," basically, and she's like, "You have no idea how hard it is to communicate with kids these days." And this is in 1988, and like things are like probably 10 times worse now because you didn't have the internet and like smartphones and all this shit that is happening now, where kids are probably harder to communicate with. And she's saying like you're losing them to apathy. So it's like the whole debate about how to reach kids, and it seems like everybody in the movie is kind of failing, especially with Donnie and Gretchen, people like them. So I thought that was interesting. It's kind of like a battle with people like the gym teacher's philosophy versus Drew Barrymore's philosophy.
Yeah.
And then there's a struggle. There's the opposing viewpoints of how to deal with like life's adversity. You can go with this simplistic and commercialized like pseudo-spiritual mantra, fear versus love bullshit, traditional religious values. Or you can try to deal with the actual nuances and contradictions of modern life, like kind of how his parents try to help Donnie, even though they don't really understand him. They do their best, and it like has way more of an effect than like the therapy and the fear versus love, like VHS videos.
Yeah. I just thought that was. I mean, like, I guess I understand the whole, like, you could go the easier route or the hard route, you know?
One is, I think the easy route where there's just like this commercialized, simplistic mantra, like pseudo spiritual stuff. I think that's just a denial. Like people are just they're blind to what the problem really is, and it's eventually gonna come to bubble to the surface, and they're gonna have to deal with it, and it's gonna be more destructive because they've kind of repressed it.
Yeah.
Versus the way Donnie's dealing with stuff where he's like angry and he's like cussing out teachers and stuff. That's the way he deals with it, and it's destructive, and it's harsh, and it like is antisocial, but it's more real, it's more truthful than the other way. Is kind of the way I see it. Yeah, and then there's just the battle about the ongoing existence of God. It's like religious people, like most of the people in the movie, versus
there was a lot of like I don't know if undertones is the right thing, but it was like definitely a theme, which I guess goes with your whole like conservative '80s and all that crap.
Reagan era, yeah, all that crap. But yeah, that was kind of my general thoughts on the film. I liked it. There was a lot to. I think this was a good movie to do for a discussion because there was a lot going on. Obviously, we didn't know that before, but after watching
the spooky post-Halloween vibe.
Yeah, I watched this on the day before Halloween, and then on Halloween, the other movie that was in the running for us to watch was The Thing, which is absurd that I've never seen that. I watched the original one from like the 50s with my dad back in the day, but it's like not the same at all. The one from the 80s, the John Carpenter movie, The Thing.
Yeah,
I watched that on Halloween, or maybe that was the day before Halloween. I watched this over the weekend. But yeah, The Thing is also a really good movie. I'm assuming most people have seen that. You haven't, and I would recommend it. It's like the perfect horror movie concept. It's like an Antarctic base, and an alien infiltrates like this isolated group of researchers on the base, and it's like a shape-shifting meat monster that can turn into anything. And it's like super gory. The effects still hold up. It was made in 1982. It reminds me of like Alien, as far as like Alien's a perfect horror concept movie, and The Thing is on par with it. That's another good. I don't think there'd be as much like existential stuff to talk about with that movie. So Donnie Darko is definitely a better choice for a discussion. The Thing is just more like a visual.
We only discuss existential stuff.
Well, The Thing there's not a lot to talk about. You kind of just have to watch it. It's like a cinematic experience. It's not really like there's not a lot of.
It's not things to unpack.
There's nothing to unpack with it really.
Yeah,
it's just it's a fun movie, and it's really entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got spooked this Halloween.
Got spooked. And
also,
now,
the mom is reading it.
All the November. Yeah, I saw that
in the beginning.
All of our podcasts in November will be thankful.
Thankful?
Since this one was spooky. We have to stay on brand and be thankful in all of our November podcasts.
I kind of still see November as like
It's
kind
still
of dark.
spooky time.
It's
It's
still kind of dark.
it's
It's like
pumpkin,
it's like a
pumpkin patch time, baby.
pumpkin patch time is over, my man.
What? This is it. Like pumpkin patches and cornucopias and shit. This is the whatever food group pumpkins are. That and like gourds. Like
Gourds.
it's their time to
Didn't you,
shine.
didn't you have a take one time? You said gourds are fucking terrible.
I took a shot of 151 out of a gourd once, so I hate them.
What?
Yeah.
I just remember that wasn't on the pod, but at some point you said to me that gourds are like an abomination, and I just lost it because I was like, why do you possibly have
Gourds?
that take?
I don't remember saying this. This is another blackout take.
You
Where,
had a blackout gourd take.
like the take was so hot that I blacked out in anger.
No, it wasn't a gourd. It was a cornucopia.
Oh yeah, cornucopias are fucking terrible.
You
They
said
have, like
fuck cornucopias.
yeah, they're bad.
What is a gourd? Why am I thinking of a gourd?
A gourd is like a little pumpkin looking thing.
Okay, gourds are like the banana.
No, yeah, I
pumpkin.
do have a big problem with cornucopias. They're fucking
You have a strong opinion on cornucopias.
they're bad. They're like the sitcom apartments of they just give you unrealistic expectations.
This is so far
Infinite
from, like,
bounty.
the basis of rationality. I don't have a counterpoint to you. I don't have anything to say.
Yeah. No, you can search my Twitter, and I have tweeted fuck cornucopias. I know this for a fact. I have a problem with cornucopias.
Okay.
So yeah, we can end on that. We can end on that bombshell.
Yeah, I think we're done.
Yeah, we're out. Fuck cornucopias.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for their daily races, going nowhere, going nowhere. Their tears are filling up their glasses, no expression, no expression. Hide my head, I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kinda funny, I find it kinda sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad world. Mad world. Children waiting for the day they feel good. Happy birthday, happy birthday. And I feel the way that every child should. Sit and listen, sit and listen. Went to school and I was very nervous. No one knew me, no one knew me. Hello teacher, tell me what's my lesson. Look right through me, look right through me. And I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad